You struggle with anxiety and feel as though you can't even sit in silence and do nothing anymore. Like you can't just sit on the couch by yourself in peace and just be in the moment without feelings of fear and panic creeping in. Usually this is because these silences have become less about peace and more about checking to see if the anxiety is still there. This is a common experience for people struggling with anxiety. Silence and just sitting quietly used to be neutral, something that we didn't even think twice about. But now it's turned into something that we dread because it feels like an opportunity for anxiety to take over. But ask yourself this: before anxiety became such a big part of your life, how often did you actually sit in silence just to check how you were feeling? Probably not very often. It's not that silence itself is the problem, it's the way anxiety shifts our relationship with that sitting in silence. When we are struggling with anxiety, we find ourselves trying to sit in silence, not to enjoy a quiet moment to ourselves, but to monitor for symptoms or feelings. And we might start asking ourselves questions like, is anxiety there? How bad is it today? Am I okay? And this is what we call threat monitoring. It's a behaviour that keeps your focus on the very thing you are trying to move away from. By checking so often, you're reinforcing the idea that sitting in silence is a problem, or that the anxiety itself needs constant supervision or monitoring. And the truth is, the more you do check and the more you monitor, the bigger and scarier anxiety can feel. The silence isn't the issue here. The checking on the anxiety is the issue. Recovery isn't about avoiding these silences or testing ourselves when we are in them and seeing if we win. It's about shifting our relationship with sitting in silence. Instead of treating it as a test and using it as a space to monitor and check for how anxious we are whilst we sit in silence, try to just let it be. This isn't a moment to measure or monitor, but simply a space to exist without judgment or any expectations. You don't need to prove anything to yourself that you are okay with sitting in silence. It's okay if anxiety shows up whilst you do that. What matters most is how you respond when it does show up. Try and respond with some curiosity or a willingness to experience it instead of checking on it and trying to control it. Silence doesn't have to become this battleground. Let it become neutral and effortless again. Now, this takes time and practice, but it's not a test. It's not a trap. It's just a part of life that you don't need to keep over-analysing. Give yourself permission to sit in silence and be anxious if anxiety wants to show up, but we don't need to check or monitor for it.